we'll hop into it. Good morning, Ben. How are we?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thank you. So I wanted to just kind of touch base with you today on some of the stuff that we've talked about previously and kind of see where we're going. But before we get into that, any questions, anything feel important today?
Not that I didn't.
Feeling okay about the schedule? School feels okay?
Good so far?
Fantastic. All right. If there is ever something that feels important, even if it doesn't seem necessarily relevant to kind of what we're working on, always bring it, right? Anytime that you feel overwhelmed or anxious or anything like that, we always want to make sure that we address the most pressing issue, and then we can hop into kind of the overarching. Okay. So when we spoke the first time, we had kind of talked about this idea of time management being the primary concern. Coming to a new environment, far from home, our resources are a little more limited, although you did say you're kind of developing them. And this is college on the university level, as opposed to kind of that dual enrollment you were doing with high school and community college, right? Last week when we spoke, we kind of reflected on how that had been going, and you had mentioned that kind of that initial couple of weeks you had so much going on. You had to go out of town, grandmother was in hospice, all this other stuff, and so you were a little stressed out. But then you had started catching up, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, last week you were getting ahead of schedule.
I was.
Is that right? That's amazing. And then the other thing that I took away from what you had said last week was this idea of kind of like a strict schedule isn't really conducive to the way that you operate. You like a little bit of flexibility, and I put it in where it feels good kind of stuff, right? Is that all kind of accurate?
Yep.
So my question to start the day then is, where are you at now?
Good so far. This week, last week I guess ahead is kind of a subjective term for the person. But all of my work was done, was on time, obviously it was on time, but it was done before when it was due. This week I am running a good schedule. We're changing the frequent, like how often we have to do a certain assignment, so it will allow me to work ahead more because I won't have to worry about writing a 5-paragraph paper every week.
I gotcha.
So it will allow me to free up a little bit more time to work ahead, which is helpful because I have two papers that I've got to write next week, or next month.
Next month.
Next month. So
Which class is this?
we've got to write a intro social work. It's for our intro class. It is a I don't remember. I know for our policy class it's a policy analysis.
Gotcha.
For our intro class, we're writing about one of the grand challenges of social work.
Gotcha.
So I've already got one kind of picked out, and probably next week or end of this week we'll start outlining. Because I like to outline papers before I write them.
Sure.
Just so once I start writing, even if I end up writing later than I want to, I already have that outline, so it kind of flows a little bit smoother.
Makes it easier to write. I get that. So the class that's changing the frequency, which one is that?
It is my human behavior class.
That's the one that you told me last week that like you have to read a chapter, read the book, and write a paper every week. So
our professor realized that it's kind of not only repetitive, but it's a little bit boring for a majority of our class because we're reading and then writing and then rinsing and repeat every week. So she's kind of trying to reframe the class a little bit to make it more engaging. Personally, I don't mind reading and writing. I don't mind doing independent work. I've done a lot of it, so it doesn't bother me. But I'm also not completely opposed to it.
Gotcha. So overall, how would you feel about your schedule, or how do you feel about your schedule?
Good so far. I think as these papers come closer to due, it will really be telling of how the time management is going.
Fair enough.
Because if I'm ahead, there will be a lot less stress than if I'm behind.
Gotcha.
So if I can stay on top of those assignments this week and next week I won't have like a paper to write, so I have more time to start outlining those papers.
Perfect.
So if I can get that done, or at least get a jump start on it, it will allow me to work a little bit more freely
Okay.
in the next few weeks before break, to kind of get things done.
Absolutely. So, just to make sure I understand the timelines, these papers are due in not next week, or not this week, but next week, the end of next week, is that right?
So my intro paper is due the last week in September. So it'll be, no, last week in October, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, we're there.
There was a mix-up actually. We had Lions next week papers.
Gotcha.
So one is due October 29th, which will be 2 weeks after we get back from break. And the next one is due 3 weeks after break. It is due November the 3rd.
Okay.
So I've got time.
Okay.
But if I just say that for the next 3 weeks and they don't do anything, then I won't have time.
And then time management will have gone out the window.
So
Fair enough.
getting a jump start on those, because once I start it, it'll be more in the back of my mind of, well, now that I've started it, can I keep working on it? Like it won't be, like I think sometimes I tend to, oh, I have a month to do this, so I just kind of wait, and then because I haven't worked on it at all, it kind of just flies into the wind, and then it's the week of the due date and I haven't started. So
Yeah.
I think just starting it, even if it's just figuring out what I'm going to write about or outlining my paragraphs, and if I can do that, it'll put it in my mind of things that I need to work on. So allow me to get it done
Yeah.
sooner rather than later.
I can imagine that will take off some of the anxiety and stress of waiting, procrastination. So, what does that look like? The outlines, like how do you feel like you're gonna manage that timeline?
I would say, ideally, I would like to finish my outlines at least 2 weeks before my papers due. Just so I have time, I don't have to write it all in one sitting. Now, I normally end up doing that just because once I start writing, I kind of just flow into it and I can get it all done. But I also want to be able to kind of look back at the paper and edit it, not the same day that I'm writing it, because I want to look at it, kind of write it, take a step back, work on something else, and then maybe a few days later, come look back at it and be like, oh, well, I wrote this and it sounded good in the moment, but now that I'm reading it, it's like, maybe I need to change it a little bit.
So I know that you don't like necessarily a very strict kind of schedule on, the way that you incorporate assignments into your life. But I'm just curious if we're thinking about getting ahead and working over the next couple weeks, and of course there's break in a couple weeks as well, so that outline is done prior to the assignment, so you can really just like nail out the thing. How can you make sure that you are not kind of absent-mindedly, procrastinating or letting this thing go? Is there a schedule of even a flexible schedule that we can put in?
I think the easiest thing for me would be encoded scheduling, because obviously I'm not going to say like 5 p.m. on Friday I want to have this done.
Right.
But ideally I would like to have both of my outlines done in the next 2 weeks.
Next 2 weeks.
And at the very least I would want to have them done before fall break.
Okay.
Because I want to have an outline, even though I'm not going to probably work a whole lot on fall break, I may work some.
Sure.
But it's not realistic to say I'm going to be crunching out assignments during fall break when I'm at home.
Absolutely.
So ideally I'd like to have my outlines done before break,
Okay.
because that gives me 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks, 2 weeks and some change
Sure.
to finish the papers.
Okay.
Obviously my intro paper was due a few days earlier, so that'll be the one I'll write first. But if I can get those outlines done before I leave for fall break, I'll have an outline of what I want to say, and I won't, because I'm worried. My worry is that if I wait till after fall break, I'll have a week of no social work classes, so I won't really be in the same. I won't be thinking as much of things that I'd like to include, as opposed to writing it before, kind of towards the end. Even though it may seem a little burdensome because I'm trying to prepare and get ready for break, it'll be done and those thoughts will be on paper.
Right.
So that once I come back to it, it's not like, well, where do I start? Because I haven't looked at a textbook or I haven't read a set of notes in forever. So it's kind of, I already have that outline, so don't have to like revisit everything. So it kind of saves me a little bit of time, even though mentally it doesn't seem like I'm saving it, but it is realistically saving some time.
Absolutely. So basically this idea of like over break, you know, our mindset switches. We're on vacation and some of the things that are like now and present in our mind kind of fall out, right? Or kind of go to the back. So it sounds like if you do this before break, then you won't have to kind of relearn and kind of establish the information to try and do it after break. Is that kind of it?
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this, if we're trying to get these outlines done before break, and we've got a couple weeks until break, how can you allocate time each of these weeks towards finishing those outlines?
So I actually want to start before. So before I do my outlines, ideally I'd like to be, my goal is to be a week ahead of everything else. So then when I do those outlines, something like the 2 weeks ago, it came to a point where I needed to do an assignment. Like I had the paper for this class, but since it wasn't due in 2 weeks and I had other assignments that were due the same week that I was in, it kind of got pushed off to the side, and I don't want that to happen with these papers. So kind of the mindset is if I can get, like, obviously before I've said ahead is like a few days, but I'd like to be done with all of my work for the following week, like on that Sunday, a full week ahead, so that I can't really make the mental excuse of, well, I have another assignment that's due tonight, so I can't do my outline.
Right.
Almost using it as like a bargaining chip, like, well, I have this other assignment to do, so really I need to wait and do this outline. Plus I have plenty of time, so it's kind of like, if I can get ahead, that excuse isn't there, so I have to do that outline.
So these assignments are secondary to the assignments that are due prior to that. Those are priority. We're going to get those done early. We're going to stay ahead. And then once we've kind of established this kind of advantage of time, then we can start working on the outlines. So I re-ask, how do we allocate time each of these weeks to make sure that happens?
More than likely I'll write the outlines at one time, just because it probably won't take me a whole lot of time to outline, because I'm basically just jotting bullets down of ideas I want to include in certain paragraphs, depending on what obviously my professor is wanting me to include. So probably the best allocation of time I would do is probably on a Monday or Tuesday earlier in the week, because obviously throughout the week we get more tired.
Sure.
So by the weekend I'm not going to want to work on anything. So especially from my head, I'm not going to feel like I have to. So I think just maybe doing one outline like that Monday before break, and maybe the other one that Tuesday or Wednesday before break, and just having those done, so that it's not the weekend of break and I'm like, well, I haven't done these outlines.
Right.
So I think just setting aside time, like after Monday's my busiest class day, but either what I'll do is either before, because I don't have class till 11:45, so either I'm up in the morning anyways, so more than likely I'll write. Ideally, I'd say I'd write one before class and one after. That's not realistic. I know I won't do that. I know myself.
But that's valid.
So more than likely, I'll write one in the morning before class on Monday, and then one after I get back from this class on Tuesday.
Okay.
Because I have a break in between this class and my next class.
Okay.
So more than likely, that's the goal of when you get it done.
Cool. So maybe we can check in on Thursday before break and see how you're doing on that goal. Does that feel okay?
Yes.
That way there's a little bit of accountability,
Absolutely.
right? But also just to make sure that even if we haven't completed that plan, we at least have some sort of alternative course of action.
Absolutely.
So Monday, one, Tuesday, the other.
Yep.
But this is all contingent on the idea that you're ahead in the other classes, right?
Technically, yes.
So with that in mind, how are we parsing out our time with the assignments for the other classes?
So this week, as of right now, I have an assignment due tomorrow morning. So that'll be done when I get out of this class, more likely.
Okay.
I've already finished part of it. It's not completely done, but it's partially done. So it's not going to take me as much time. So that will be done today. My human behavior class, which is my heavier course load, and I still do have a paper to write this week. That will be I do all of my reading. So I'll read my textbook one day, notes. I'll do my supplementary book the next day, and then my paper will be written on that day or the next day.
Okay.
So I kind of spread it out among other things.
Right.
So in order to get ahead, what the plan is today I'll get done the assignments due tomorrow, and then depending on where we're at with my other class, this afternoon probably have an event 5. So ideally this afternoon probably I do most of my work around 8-9 o'clock, which is kind of odd for most people, but I work better at night. So I would probably try to read, depending on how long the chapter is, 'cause some of them are like 40 pages, and obviously I'm not going to read that in one sitting.
Sure.
But if we're looking at a 20 to 25 pages chapter, then I'll read through it, take some notes, which I have to turn in anyways, kind of jot down important ideas, kind of outline what I might want to include in my paper. And then tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, if I can get that book done reading, those chapters done, then I'll already be able to jump start on that paper and get it done. If I can get it done before the weekend, then I have, obviously I'm not going to work the whole weekend, but I'll have time during the weekend to start that next week's work.
Okay.
And if I have no assignments due Tuesday or Wednesday, because I want to have those knocked out by the weekend or during the weekend, then I'll have the whole week to kind of work on. I only have one class work, so I'll be able to do that stuff earlier in the week, and then everything else by Wednesday I should be done. So like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I can kind of work on that, figuring out what I need to do for the next classes. I'll be writing this paper for this class for this interview at some point that week. So.
All right. So it sounds like we're doing a little bit each day, right? Without kind of overloading yourself. You're talking about like, I'm not going to read all 40 days in one, or all 40 pages in one sitting, which is realistic, right? So a little bit each day to stay kind of on that ahead pace. And then that'll allow you to have those outlines Monday and Tuesday, and we'll check in on Thursday. So I know we're almost out of time, but I do have one thing that kind of raised an interest. You had mentioned a couple minutes ago this idea of throughout the week we get more tired, right? And then you had mentioned a second ago that you tend to start work later in the evening, this 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, right? So I'm just curious, right? Part of this time management and balance with the work life or school life. How are you taking care of yourself? How are you making sure that you're not fatiguing?
So, I say late at night. Late at night is subjective for a lot of people.
You're right.
When I say late at night, my work is normally done between 8 and 10. I'm in bed before midnight pretty much every night. Last night I wasn't, but that was the first night I haven't been. And generally I'm not up till 8 o'clock. So most of the time I'm getting between 8 and 9 hours of sleep, which means even though I do work out frequently, it's still, I'm not waking up every morning like dragging out of bed, like fighting for my life until I drink my first cup of coffee. Like I can wake up at 8 o'clock, get up, and start my morning routine, whatever that looks like, depending on the day, and kind of get things moving along. In the mornings, I don't typically view homework just because I don't do anything in the mornings, typically. I don't work out in the mornings. My body's always fatigued in the morning, doesn't matter why. I can't explain it, it's always how it works. It takes my whole body and mind a few hours to wake up. That's why I get up a little bit early before class. Occasionally I'll do an assignment or two, depending on, like, for example, our policy and social work assignments, it's just vocabulary. Obviously I'm not having to like analyze a textbook and write a thoughtful essay on it. So it's easier for me to just look up definitions in my textbook, refer back to Google if I need to for the definitions, and kind of just knock that out a little bit easier. So those type of things are usually the only things I write in the mornings. And then obviously I'm in class throughout the middle part of the day for the most part. Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm not, but normally in the middle ground, I'm preparing for that third class. Because Tuesday and Thursday is a separate class, so I'm kind of doing a little bit of review. Like today, I've got to read part of a short book. I'm going to read a few pages of that before class. I'm prepared for discussion.
Okay.
Just things like that, and then obviously I'm going to eat lunch.
Food is fuel.
So just things like that. Most of my work gets done in the afternoon,
Okay.
which is a little weird because I kind of start my day off slow, and then throughout the day it kind of gets more and more like active. Not like busy, but just active. Like I work out in the afternoon, then I'll get back to my dorm, and then I'll work on homework. It's just how it is. My mind's awake after I'm working out.
Sure.
So it allows me to focus more. It's how it rolls in my brain, which doesn't for a lot of people. Some people just need to crawl in bed after they work out. I'm not that way. It's
Okay.
never been that way.
Okay.
So that's just kind of how I roll.
Everyone's circadian rhythm is different. Everyone's response to stimulus is a little different. So it makes sense. But it does sound like you're getting good sleep, and it sounds like from what you just said, we're still working out, kind of taking care of ourselves and energizing. Okay. So we've got a goal. We're going to have the outlines done Monday and Tuesday, the week before break starts.
So that'll be October. The 10th is Friday. 9th, 8th. The 7th, 6th, and 7th
6th and
of
7th.
October.
Okay.
For a date.
6th and 7th, we're going to check in on the 9th. We're going to have a little bit of work every day to get ahead and have those other assignments completed. That way we can work on those two outlines Monday and Tuesday. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. Does that feel like a good plan to you?
Absolutely.
Anything we need to implement as far as accountability or contingencies for chaos? Anything you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I no longer have anything to do before the weekend of break.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what homework looks like, if I'm a little bit ahead, I may leave a little bit early for fall break.
Nice.
Obviously I'm not leaving like a skipping class, but
Right.
I may leave and just add the weekend to my fall break
Okay.
if that's also dependent. So it's almost like a little bit of motivation, like if I can get things
Right.
done, then I can leave a little bit early, have a little bit more time. So,
There's the carrot to chase.
so we'll see.
I like
We'll
it.
see.
Sounds like a great plan. Do you have questions for me? Anything I can help you with today?
Not that I can think of.
Perfect. All right, well, let's wrap here and we'll check in soon, okay?
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.